Last week, we had a massive run up in crypto. Most everything was up. And this week, a solid pullback. Bitcoin last week went as high as 74,000 and then pulled all the way back to 61,000. Now, I'm sure that was absolutely freaking out new people to the space. In crypto, we call that a regular Monday. Even in a bull market, we do this 2 steps forward, 1 step back dance. And sometimes it's even 3 steps forward and then 2 steps back. It can be very scary to new people and shake them out completely. Well, today we'll take a look at some price action. We have Paul from Definity joining us. And I know for many of you, this is your favorite episode of the week. And I can't say I blame you. Paul has 30 years of insight in price analysis and has been an advisor in advising all kinds of markets for 30 years. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. If you, like me, came into crypto because you realize the potential for life-changing gains over a 4 to 8 year period, and you're looking for discussions on becoming a solid, unshakable, savage crypto investor, like a Navy SEAL of crypto investing, you're in exactly the right place and with the right family, the Rainmaker family. Now, the reason I created this channel is because I was once new to crypto 7 years ago myself. And back then I was looking for a crypto channel and a group that understood crypto as an investment and discussed the really important things like investment cycles and the pros and cons of specific projects, like what is the risk, what is the upside if it comes together well. I didn't find that, so we created it. And I say we because it isn't just me anymore. It's a family of rainmakers. You can find them here in the chat. You will see some in our free Telegram group. The link to that is below, and you will definitely find them in our private Patreon group that allows you access to our Rainmaker private Discord. In order to get access to that Discord, you join the Patreon, and then we connect you up and get you access to the Discord, which is where the best discussion and best info is. There are other benefits too, but you would have to join us to find out. Do note, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a crypto investor myself. Paul invests in many things, and he is not your financial advisor either. And none of this to be taken as financial advice. Now, make it rain on that like button, strap in for the show, and help me welcome Paul to the channel. Paul, thank you for joining us.
Always a pleasure. I know we had a missed week last week, and of course, everything had to kick off in that week, didn't it? But that's just the markets. But yeah, everything's still looking interesting as ever, and looking forward to getting into the picks that people want to have a look at.
Yes, I mean, this market has had some pullbacks. Sometimes some pullbacks lead to some juicy pickups. Some spaces have been running tremendously. I mean, the narratives that have been running is basically Solana, meme coins, and then AI, and a little bit decentralized science, but primarily AI, meme coins, and Solana. And things don't run up for forever. The narratives then shift to something else. And will they run some more before the narrative shifts? I don't know. I don't know how that will play out, but those have been running pretty good. We had some suggestions we're going to look at from viewers. Last week, we didn't have an episode. We were going to have it on Monday, and then my internet had trouble. I have not had with it before. It was going in and out every 5 or 10 minutes, and the company was doing some work on it, I guess, but it's just too inconsistent to hold the live stream.
Yeah.
So here we are this week. Next week's going to be a little bit tough. I'm going to be out of town again. Paul's going to be doing some travels. So we'll see if we can put something together for next week. But as of now, it's not looking great.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's yeah, technology. What can you do, eh?
Sour D says, "What's up, Rain and Paul? Felt like something was missing last week without this live stream."
Oh, that's kind. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, the basic position of where we are now, the kind of situation is, in terms of analyzing everything and what's going on. The question you have to ask is, when you look at a chart of Bitcoin and the low and the FTX situation, SBF, which was very near the low of the market, what is the sentiment like here? And is this the top? Is this a major top, or is it just an intermediate top? It's kind of unreasonable to expect the market to keep going up in a straight line, even though there are people out there making huge calls, Michael Saylor, etc., talking big numbers. The break into a new all-time high, especially in something like this product, you're going to see some selling. People are going to take profits, and that's going to cause a reaction. And the main question here is, where is the correction going to go to, for how long, and is this a major top that's going to form, or is the market going to keep going up? Now, I would say, I'd use the words instincts, but I'd just say structurally, I don't think this move is over. There's still a lot more to happen in terms of the dollar going down. Equities are still going up. The risk on plays that are there are still there. So I'm not seeing a broader crack in the markets that would suggest that this is it. But when you get to a certain level of volatility, and I think I've said it on the show a few times, you don't actually want the market to go up this fast, because when it goes up this fast, it comes back this fast. And the market needs to just calm down a bit. It's just got too excited. There's been too much activity. And what we need to see is a consolidation where things go a bit quiet, a bit boring, and they go sideways. And that would be kind of Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum. And perhaps we'd see a bit more action in the altcoins, where not so many people are focusing on those, and the attention kind of switches a bit. Now, be interesting to see if that's what happens next, and it'd be great if that happens next, especially for people that watch this show, because this is kind of the main focus, as well as the kind of main products. But for me, I think the headline is that we needed a correction. We were getting close to it anyway a couple of weeks ago, and definitely for last week, when you see the markets screaming up 5,000 points or more in a day, that's too much. You can't sustain that. So this is not surprising, but we'll see how the market reacts. We can look at a chart and look at how it's already bounced from the lows, and we just need to get some form of consolidation with which to then set up the next move to 100,000 and potentially more in this kind of bull run. So I don't think it's over. I don't think the big move is over. There will be a time when it's over. And actually, we talked about this again, this element of sentiment before, and I think I remember somebody quite on the chat saying something quite funny about. I said, wait until your friends are asking how to get into crypto. Now, I was asking this question of somebody else, another analyst and a crypto trader, just yesterday. And he said, I said, I bet you nobody's actually contacted you to say, how can I buy in? He said, yeah, that's exactly right. So we haven't seen that final kind of panic buying and relatives and friends and oh yeah, I know this guy who knows about crypto, can you tell me how to get in? And all of a sudden, we haven't seen that yet. Well, I haven't seen it, and I haven't seen much in the press either, apart from obviously the main ones that focus on it. But don't look there, look outside to the mainstream press, the newspapers that would not normally talk about crypto. They might stick a headline in, but we want to see front page news that crypto's made a new high and everybody's super bullish. We haven't seen that yet. So that makes me think that there's more to go in this, and the charts are kind of confirming that the trend is still up. Yeah, certainly a big correction. Certainly this could go further. I'm not saying that's impossible, but you have to remember, not so long ago, we were 25, 30,000 and much lower before then. So a kind of reasonable correction could take us to 50,000, but there's many people who want to buy into this, and they're hoping for a bigger collapse in order for them to then get in, because they really feel like they've missed out. So it could be quite volatile. Things will settle down, I feel, and the trend will then move up again. But for the moment, I don't think this is the top, but it would be reasonable to expect at least a consolidation, and we'll see how that pans out over the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. One of the excuses or reasons I heard for this pullback was Japan raising their interest rates, which did freak out the markets a little bit, but it's like this pullback was due. That's just one of the reasons found, but it was probably going to happen anyway. And
Yeah,
Japan thing probably had little to nothing to do with it.
thing in Japan's stock market. Can I put some charts up just to
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
highlight how I'd answer that? I mean, the thing is, right, the Japanese yen has been collapsing, and this is the chart of the dollar against the Japanese yen, which actually looks like it's about to go or break out into a new high. So the currency is in a bit of trouble, and you've got to be careful with currencies because they can go into meltdown, and it's, that's not an unreasonable thing to happen here, especially when you're knocking on these major highs. So the Bank of Japan are probably thinking we don't want a disorderly decline of the Japanese yen because that causes inflation. But having said that, they've had deflation as a problem, so they wouldn't mind a bit of inflation, but they don't want it too fast, so they want to kind of control it, so that's point one. Point two, the stock market, which is the most kind of sensitive area that would determine, um, whether people are getting out of risk on trades in Japan, is still going up. So it's a very minor non-event. I mean, I think the market is really reaching to say that was why the risk on trade. This is still going up. Japanese stock market is still got potentially more upside. So I don't think that. I think there was a suggestion for me. The fact that the dollar hadn't gone down actually started to push back up again was more of a potential reason. And we got CPI that came in slightly stronger than expected. It was supposed to be, well, I say it's slightly stronger. It wasn't that much stronger. I thought we might get a print on a 2.9%, and we actually got 3.2. So from 3.1 to 3.2, it went up a little bit. That's all. And everyone suddenly went, "Oh no interest rate cuts are going to happen, and that's it." And it has pushed the curve out a little bit, but that for me could be the reason. The fact that interest rate expectations have shifted a little bit because the data has been a bit stronger in the US. The US is far more important than any other country when it comes to where the markets are going. And that, coupled with the fact that the markets had gone banzai, they'd gone so high. If whoever had bought within a few days before, let alone on these actual days of the correction, that a few days before that, you're still up thousands of points. So, you have to expect some kind of pullback from that. And if you go back a couple of months, the desire to take profits will be absolutely huge. So that's for me a more logical reason, that the fact that the market's just got a little bit ahead of itself. The expectations for interest rate cuts haven't quite come in as expected. The dollar's a bit stronger than expected. It's putting a lot of downward pressure on some currencies in some countries. And so that's still to come. That's still something to look forward to that could drive the next wave. But it's almost like, we're waiting for this injection of money into the system, and it's like waiting for a payment. It hasn't quite come yet, and so you can't quite spend it, and the market's kind of geared up and then had to calm down a little bit because things have come back again. So it's I still think it's coming. It's definitely, well, you can't say anything 100%. When I say definitely, I always mean I just think
The
this is
probabilities are good.
yeah, a good enough probability to kind of make some expectations around it. But yeah, dollar weakness is still potentially there. The dollar yen moving up actually in itself is interesting. Why is the dollar moving up? Now, you guys in the US may have heard peripherally that some of the banks, some of the regional banks, have been in trouble. Now, I did a quick scan of some stocks, and I just saw a horrendous looking one and found it was, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was one of the US banks that was in a lot of trouble. And I had a quick look around the stories, and there could be something in the system. And we've mentioned this a couple of times before. There could be something in the system that the market is worried about, and it's yet to come out. What that means is, it means that the Fed might cut interest rates because of bad news, but in between, it might cause a bit of uncertainty. And there's two reasons why I think rates could go down. One is inflation could be better than expected, which is in the UK, we've had some really good numbers today to suggest that inflation's moving in the right direction. That was kind of my core view. The second reason could be that, for a more negative reason, that there's a problem that needs to work through the system. One of the banks is in trouble, or a few banks, and it causes not enough to be a major crisis, because that's further down the road, but enough to make the Fed cut interest rates, which causes, up until that point, a bit of uncertainty, a bit of a bid in the dollar, which kind of explains what it's doing now. And then when they cut, we get this next sort of section, this next kind of level of the or period of the party, as it were, in risk on. So it's almost like a bad reason gives you a good reason to get involved in the market. And of course, most people reading mainstream news wouldn't understand why the market's reacting like that, because it tends to do that, tends to have a logic of its own. And once you understand the logic, it all makes sense. But to the outside world, it wouldn't make sense that the markets are tearing higher because of bad news.
True.
And if you look at the Dow, just to close that kind of that off, I mean, I have a small position in the Dow, but this is at these levels, most people are short. They're trying to short the market because they think it's overdone. And yeah, it's gone a long way. But remember what we were saying about this whole area here is a consolidation. So it's only just started going. So it could have much more to go on the upside. When markets break into new highs, they can go a long way. And this is still in an upward trend. So there's nothing in the most sensitive parts of the market that are saying risk on has gone. So that's why I was saying at the top of the show about the macro position kind of supporting Bitcoin going higher. That's what I mean. It means that it doesn't look like, if there are troubles, it doesn't look like the kind of main indices are that bothered. Might be a bit of a correction in the NASDAQ, because those are the ones that have really gone. Things like Nvidia. Now the UK papers have picked up on Nvidia and started saying it's time to buy it. I mean, what tends to happen is when they start talking about it, you've got to be worried that you might be near the top, or at least a correction. I mean, we wait for a technical signal to say that the market's hit the top, but the fact that they're now calling for some form of reversal, they're saying that now's the time to get in, I should say, worries me greatly. Because if you look at this chart, right, as a technical analyst, when would you decide to get? I mean, if this is when you're deciding to get in, having just sat and watched all of this, it'd be like, well, what have you been doing? The breakout came here at 500. There was a breakout here as well. I mean, look, there was lots of signals that it was time to buy. That's all I'm saying. And the fact that the newspapers have got it, yeah, it may go further, but I would be thinking,
yes, if I had a position there, I would be starting to take profits, or if I hadn't already, right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't mind buying a trend. You'll see that the things that are high and going higher, the Dow, for example, I don't mind going into that. The whole point of technical analysis is, and it's a different discipline to yours. When the trend is moving, you jump on, and it doesn't matter for me how high it's going, as long as the signals are there and the lights are green, as it were, if you think of it that way. But the lights go from green to amber when you start hearing about a trade in the main press. When they start picking up on it, and you've got to start. Then it not immediate sell, but it's like, ooh, that's something I've got to watch.
All the news channels were calling Ripple a buy at $3, in 2017, and its market cap had hit like $280 billion market cap. And the press was covering it and saying, yeah, it's a buy. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm curious to see how this goes. But now that the mainstream press are saying it's a buy, I'm concerned. So
the guy that I was talking to yesterday, he said something really funny. He said, I can't remember who it was in the mainstream media, but somebody in the mainstream media, some major, it could have been The Economist, but I don't want to say it was, because I'm not really sure if it was them, but someone like that was saying that, they called a kind of top and the end of Bitcoin at some point in like 2019 or something. And then when the FTX scandal hit, they said, well, we know we called it then, but now we really mean it. Now it's really, really definitely over. And there we go. We need to wait for them to be really, really bullish and say, actually, we got it wrong. This is what we've missed. And then boom, that's our signal. So I'll find out who exactly it was, and we'll make sure we keep an eye on that.
Yeah, that way we can just counter trade them. I mean, I
Yeah.
like finding indicators like that, right? Where it's just like when they get very bullish, it's time for me to sell. When they get very bearish, it's time for me to buy, generally. And it's just because they're reacting on sentiment and emotion, which kind of tells you how it's probably going to swing the other way. All right, let's take a look at the majors, Bitcoin and ETH, and then we'll, Brian, thank you for the super chat. We will take a look at VRA today, have a few other ones. Farron PK Torres says Wan Chain has broken resistance. We will definitely add Wan Chain in there, and then some of our scheduled ones as well.
Okay, I think you've frozen at my end.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any changes on your end.
Right. I haven't switched to anything yet. So
there we go.
Yeah. Do you want it? The first one?
Yeah.
Do you want me to go to the first one?
Let's go to Bitcoin real quick.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just waiting. I don't know if something froze or we were just waiting for each other there, but okay. Okay. So here's the chart of Bitcoin, and I won't go over what was going on down here, but the breakout we got 32,000, little correction. This is when the announcement came about the ETF, and it was a temporary high, but that reversed very quickly. Breakout again. I was looking for 53 as a target, as a stopping point, just one bar, and then boom, straight through it again. And once the market, remember I was saying, when the market gets close to a high like this, it almost pulls it towards it, and it acts like a magnet. And so we got the breakout into a new high. And if we look carefully, the market made a high and then closed below. So that's the first signal, this first red bar, that the market wants to correct. Now, this is enough of a warning shot to say it's gone far enough. It's not enough to say major top, but that, as I say, that doesn't mean it won't correct a bit further. But it's certainly what I look for here is the market moves normal, or are they kind of panicky buys? And when they start panicking, you can't necessarily say it's over because the market's moving up fast, because it can do this and keep going and going. So don't stand in front of this at all. It can just keep going. What you're looking for is the first signal that this is breaking a pattern of upward bars. And that was the first signal. And this is exactly what you'd expect, a pullback, a correction. Now, what normally would happen here is the market would just go sideways. And it's almost like a cooling off period. And we'll get to see whether there's any real interest to sell. And if there's interest to sell, to take profits, short-term profits, definitely. People who bought around here, this breakout, and maybe from down here, yes. But is there any long-term desire to get out? And that will tell us by whether it stays near the top of the range and what sort of pattern we get to form here. So for the moment, if I had no position, it would be a wait for me on Bitcoin, because I just want to see how it settles down. And also, you got to remember, between 60 and 73,000, 74,000, where reasonably you're going to put a stop on a trade. That's what I want to do. And when the ranges are too big, your stop's got to be too big. Now, I could have a nibble here and just put a stop below here. That's possible. So obviously it's bounced a bit from there already, which is a good sign. But this low here at 60,975, in this zone, we could look for a buy and then put a stop below this bar. That's not bad, but it's still so volatile that it's difficult to place a reasonable stop. Now, you might say just buy it without a stop. Yeah, that's dangerous for me. Maybe for you guys who are looking at the fundamentals, but for me, it could come down to 50,000 and then break lower, shake everybody out, and then go up. And that would be enough to kind of, be quite painful in terms of capital loss. So I wouldn't want to do that. So we need the volatility to lower. We need a consolidation, and I think that would be good for the market before it builds up for a break higher.
Yeah. Cool. I don't own a lot of Bitcoin. In the future, I'll own a lot of Bitcoin, but it's not volatile enough for me. So it's like, if this bull market goes as I expect, then Bitcoin will 2x or 3x or 10x from here. Who knows? But I'm definitely in more things. I hope to at least 10 to 100x. So Bitcoin isn't one of those. As long-term store of value, I like Bitcoin a lot. So when I'm de-risking, I might hold some of those funds in Bitcoin. All right. So yeah, let's jump right into some of the things. Let's skip over ETH. Let's look at Solana and then Cardano.
Yeah, Solana, let's change that to a daily chart. People who've been following us before know that this was the breakout. We had a breakout here, but we had another breakout and been basically bullish on it. I don't know if there's much else to say other than that the trend has been up. It's been playing very nicely. The first breakout we got was all the way down here at 33. It's reaching back up for its all-time high. It's kind of trying to work its way up there. It's unlikely to do that in a straight line, and we're seeing that sort of correction that you'd expect to see with the majors, and especially given how quickly it's moved up here. So the same kind of applies. I'd like to see some form of consolidation, but at the moment there's no end of a trend signal that I can see. That doesn't mean it won't go down. It doesn't mean it can't go down. It just means that the trend, from what I can see, potentially has just run a little too hot, needs to cool down a bit, and then we'll get ready for another move up. But the trend is still basically higher. So I'm a long-term bull, but short-term, yes, I do expect a bit of a consolidation. So it would be a wait in the short term, but still on the buy list for the longer term, because I like the way it's led the way as well. So I think there's two really positive things about it. You can see how the moving averages are moving higher, and how it's accelerated. They kind of widened out as the price actions moved up really quickly. So yeah, still bullish. So broadly speaking, a buy, but yeah, it does need to consolidate between, say, 165, 170 and sort of 180, 200. We're going to make a nice range there, and then build the momentum up for the next breakout to go all the way up to 250, 260, which I think, and possibly higher in the next move.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's going to go up some more. My feelings on this are cautious, very cautious, because it has led the way. And what happens is narratives take off and run. I remember when Solana ran before, and it ran up to its all-time highs. And there was so much bullishness on it that was just going to continue for forever, and nothing continues for forever. And so Solana's narrative has been running so strong and so hot. That always is a caution to me. And one of my principles is, like, I don't chase green candles. And so a lot of the value on this one was the breakout at 30K, or if you were brave enough to buy it at the bottom at $7. So a lot of the major gains have been had, because at $210 from the bottoms of $7, that's already a 30x, which is where your major multiples are, right? So you start to create severe wealth when you're getting multiples 30x and above. And so from where it's at, there's not 30x left. It might go 5 or 6x from here. And it might consolidate, and the narrative might shift to something else for a while, and then be caught in a big pullback. I think in the short term, it runs a little bit longer, and probably retests its all-time highs. And then I have no idea what happens after that. But I'm not buying Solana. If I had much Solana, I'd be taking profits out of it and rolling it into narratives that haven't hit yet, that might have 30 to 100x left still in them, where Solana doesn't. And so this is just where my strategy is completely different than Paul's. And so at this point, I would be de-risking out of Solana and rolling into other things that are very early in their run, or maybe aren't even showing that they're going to run yet, and then waiting patiently to see how that plays out. So yeah, me saying sell is contrary to what 98% of the people are saying about Solana right now. Let's take a look at, let's see, what was the next one on there? Cardano.
Cardano, yeah.
Yeah, I had one of our Rainmaker family like private message me from our Discord, and he was, asking me what I thought. He's like, oh, Solana, it's so hot and it's got such large green candles. What blue chips do you like better? And Cardano was one of the blue chips I like better. It's not as cheap as it was. And when it hit 21 cents, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a gift. But it is only 3x up from those lows.
Yeah. So this for me was a nice breakout. I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago and maybe 3 weeks ago, but this 67 cents point that it knocked on and broke through, was going for a move to 92 cents. I thought that was kind of reasonable given the fact that Bitcoin headed to 70,000 and above. So obviously that was before that Bitcoin had hit those levels. Bitcoin was, much lower when I was saying that. So it's a little surprising that it's not managed to kind of follow through a bit better. There does seem to be a slight underperformance here, that perhaps the market just needs to wake up a bit more on it, or maybe, with Solana, it was so out of favor, and then suddenly it just kind of swung back in, and it's got to potentially happen here as well. But in terms of the technicals, it's a little disappointing that it's not held over its prior resistance, but it's not the kind of end of the trend move. So I wouldn't necessarily say that, I want to bail out of it. I still think that 92 cents is reasonable, and it just might make a bit more of a meal of working its way up than some of the others. Acceleration and smooth bars higher is what I'm looking for, and that was a reasonable expectation from this breakout, and given that it's a well-regarded project. But it has got some people obviously looking to take profits because that's pulled it back, but we've still got higher lows. Averages are still moving up, and there is the major resistance is up here at 92 cents. As I say, I think it will get pulled towards there. We'll see how it reacts there, but with everything else, the broader macro picture looks positive. So after this correction's over, even if it just goes a bit quiet and goes sideways, I think it will build up for another move at some stage. So I'm going to stick with the buy.
Yeah. Now, Cardano, my thoughts on it is I do have concerns, and I always have concerns, even on the ones I'm bullish on, because I always try to look at all the pros and the cons and not emotionally decide I like something and then just dismiss anything as FUD. One of the downsides with Cardano, or one of the concerns, is are there enough new projects building on it? Solana is getting so many new developers building on it that that is what will make the difference over time. Cardano is having some new development on it, not the kind of volume I would love to see, but still you do see momentum shift, and Solana has had so much momentum that doesn't continue for forever. And one of the lessons I've learned is when I'm massively up and we're still early in the bull market, is to swing some of those gains into things that haven't yet run. And it helps me get better multiples. And sometimes I'm massively up on something and it's at a 20x. And so my thought is, if I can swing some of those gains into something that still has potential, and I get another 20x on those funds, well, that's a total of 400x gains. Those are the kind of gains that make you wealthy. But it does take the discipline to take gains on something that is swung massively up, which is sometimes hard because we sometimes want to ride it all the way to the moon. And we find out that a lot of times things don't get quite all the way to the moon. All right. So Cardano for me is a buy. I like that it's retraced some. Paul made some very good points on why is it struggling at where it's at. And that could suggest that it might struggle some more before doing better. And I always like to buy as cheap as I can, but I don't have a magic crystal ball that works to tell me, is it going to get a lot cheaper from here or not? So if I were buying blue chips, and I'm really not, this would be one I'd be considering and just holding in. And my hope for it is that it's got 5, 10, 20x from here. Now, will it? Maybe. I think potentially 10 or 20x is the far upside. Maybe it goes as high as $30 if this whole market goes to the moon. But 10 or 20 or 30x, decent probabilities on those. All right. Let's take a look at LENFI, which LENFI was once ADA and is a lending program on Cardano. And they had done some really good things. I covered them when they were brand new, brought on the co-founders many years ago now. And it's done some crazy numbers for those that bought LENFI or ADA at lows. You're going to see that, yeah, it's had some really big swings and some really big profits for those who bought it on the cheap.
Yeah, let's just check. Is this the right one? Yeah, I mean, I guess it must be.
You got
That's
it.
what it says. Yeah. Yeah. So what do we have here? We had an early peak. So peaked in December, and then sort of corrected from the kind of $5.5 down to 1.8. So it's running on its own. It's kind of doing its own thing. Which is a bit puzzling because on the one hand, it's interesting that it went up and made a new high when everything else wasn't near the high. But it's also a bit strange that it's correcting during what is a really bullish time and everyone's really excited. So quite why it's coming back like this, I'm not sure. And I don't really, I'm a bit cautious on it because I'd like to see things move ahead, lead, and then when everything else follows, it either consolidates or continues to go. So the broader market should be adding more momentum to it, not taking it away. So it's a bit of a puzzle. I would say for me, I'm just going to say it's a wait because although looking at the chart just on its own, it's approaching a zone where you might want to have a go at it because you've got good resistance which comes and turns into support between 1.4 and 1.2. So that area there is a nice kind of barrier or cushion for a trade that I might want to take. So I put a stop below, say 1.1 or something like that, a bit below that. So I've got limited risk and it's sort of falling into support. But that's just looking at this on its own. Comparing it to other things, it's not done as well as I would have liked, and I'd want to see at least respond a little bit to the upside before stepping in. So that makes me a little more cautious at this stage. So a very speculative hat and saying I can only trade this, I would say around 1.4, 1.5. If it falls to that level, I'd be gearing up to buy. But ultimately, I think here I'd have to say it's a wait. I just want to see how it's going to trade. I would expect it to go higher. The overall chart is still bullish, but it's just nagging me. One of the ways that I think about these things is if I took a position on this and then sort of shut my internet down and didn't look at it for a couple of weeks, would I be happy or would I be thinking about it all the time and wondering whether it's fallen more aggressively through the support? And I think I would be, it'd be in the back of my mind. So I wouldn't be able to kind of relax on the trade. And for that reason, I'd have to be a bit more cautious here. So I want to see a few bullish bars before I think I want to see it confirm that there's some buying in there before I step in, especially as I say, in this current environment.
Yeah. Agreed that it is in a free fall, right? And it's like trying to catch a falling knife. what is interesting is how counter-cyclical LENFI has been. Like, it is run differently than so much else. So they really kind of got some DeFi going on Cardano, and they caught a lot of momentum and went all the way to 440 here. And then this is a perfect 2 steps forward or 3 steps forward, 2 steps back scenario. And then they ran some more. But look where this is going down to. And this just shows you narratives don't run for forever. I remember when it was going up like this and it was like at $4 and people saying it's never going to stop running. It's just going to go all the way to the moon. And notice even where prices are at, the market cap's fairly low. I think at these highs, the market cap hit 80 million, which was still a pretty low market cap. But did it run for forever? No. Did it go all the way to the moon? No. It fell short. And it's still fairly early in the bull market. And so I knew to be cautious as it was running like this, because I've just seen that these things usually don't continue and run. And we covered it and I called it a sell. Well, now it's starting to get back into buy territory, but I want to see more rounding. Even when it pulled back here, you see a little bit more rounding. This is still going down very sharply, and I'm not going to buy that. So it's just a wait for me. It's a keep an eye on it. It's starting to get really juicy and cheap. I like that. I just want to see it kind of turn around more. Sometimes like the pendulum swings too far each way and it gets too expensive, but then it gets too cheap. And I love that about crypto because I like to buy cheap and then sell when it's too expensive. All right. So great suggestion by one of our viewers. Let's go ahead and add in here VRA, which Brian Walsh sent us a super chat and asked us to take a look at. So let's see VRA.
Yeah. So shall I do that next then?
Yeah, let's take a look at that next.
Oh, that's Veracity.
That's the one.
Okay. Right. Okay. So what we've got here is what should have been a nice little consolidation before a break higher, and instead we've got a pullback, which it's coming back to test support. And the good news is there's a lot of support around here that it can test. Let's get the horizontal line in there. So this is a good area of support here. And this was the major breakout. So it would have been nice for it to hold over there. It did touch it once. See how it touched it there and then went up. And it came back again, hit it. Actually, if you look at it there, it touched it again. So there was some buying on the pullback, but it's just managed to probably take stops out. That would be the sort of thing I would have my stop taken out on that, because I would buy a breakout from here. And then I'd put a stop around here just below, try and hide it behind this barrier, and it would come in and take the stops, which happens sometimes, and then just go back up again. So we'll see how it reacts in terms of when it starts to turn back up again. But I think that this is still a buy because this is a long-term base. So I'd be looking for another kind of reaction to the upside. The resistance point, which it hit, you can see was a major one. If we go back all the way over here, this was a major resistance zone, but it was building up enough momentum to have a go, at least have a crack at breaking it. But so this pullback is making a consolidation. I think we're going to have to wait and see how it trades here. What I would like to see is a rally into this area and for a sideways consolidation for a couple of months, and then a breakout again for that strong resistance. That would make sense. Where I would start to get a bit concerned is if it holds for a couple of weeks below this support level. I don't mind the market coming back, but I don't want it to come back too far. So what I might have to do is unwind the position and then buy in again. Psychologically, that can be difficult, but that's where you have to put that to one side and just look at what the chart is doing, what the market is doing. And if it's better served somewhere else, put it in another market. And if you end up like say, for example, here, if I got stopped out and then it goes up again and it looks like it's a buy, I have to buy it more expensive. If I have to buy it at like 15 cents or 16 cents, technically, I don't mind that, because at least the market is moving in the right direction. And it might seem counterintuitive to say, well, why would you not buy it at 10 cents when you can, but you would buy it at 15 cents? It's more the direction of travel. And if you look at any of the other charts, look at Solana, you could say, well, why would I buy it here? Look back in the trend and see how it's moved. When it breaks out, when it's going fast, that's the sort of trend that I'm looking for. And it moves very quickly. So if it moves through 15 cents, it's not that I'm looking for 16 cents or 17 cents. I'll be looking for 20, 30, or maybe 50 cents as a target. So I'm thinking much further ahead about where the potential is. So for the moment, I think it's a little bit of a wait. But I'm not, like, say the word worried. I'm not concerned about the pullback too much, because, as I say, this is still this is a lovely base. And if we switch to a weekly chart, it's made this kind of double bottom pattern. And sometimes the market, as you can see with Cardano, it did exactly the same thing. It broke out and then came back and hit everybody's stop. So within the bull market, I think this should have much more to go. So we just might need to be a little bit more patient, to wait for that acceleration. With Bitcoin coming back and there being a correction there, we'll just have to see how this reacts. We have to see whether money's coming out of Bitcoin and then flowing into the altcoins, or whether it's just coming out generally, and then we'll see whether everything will move higher. I actually think there's a better than even chance that things are going to move into the altcoins, and we'll see some interesting moves there while Bitcoin comes back. So yeah, whilst it's a wait, I'm still positive on it for the long term, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I like this one. I like that it's come back. I think Paul was dead on with this analysis, that they built this nice base, right? So this is going back 1 year, and you see a higher low here, and it took off. And what happened is a lot of people who were either upside down or something use that to take some profits. And this frequently happens. I think this one might be getting ready to run. And so what kind of upside does it have? Well, it's already at a market cap of 104 million. Looking a little bit deeper into it, and we've covered Veracity in the past. Many of you already know what it is. Veracity is an open ledger advertising ecosystem built around Veracity's patented proof of view fraud identification technology. So allowing ads to be run while people are playing blockchain video games or they're doing different things, and the advertiser knows that it's actually getting a view. It's not get some view by a bot that, so blockchain makes sense for this type of thing, of really making sure that the advertisements get in front of people. Now, will ultimately Veracity make it and own this market? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But a lot of the bets I take is I don't know if ultimately they're going to succeed over the coming 10 or 20 years. But do I think there's room for it to run in the coming bull market? And I think there's a lot of room for it to run. And what kind of market cap could something like this go to? Well, it depends on how hard this narrative hits, and if it hits at all. If it doesn't hit at all, it could still do a 10x. If this narrative hits, it could do a 20 or 30 or 40x. Which even at a 40x from the real bottom here, that it hit 0.3 cents at the bottom. And we'd have to go to the year view to see that. It hit about that right here. So about 1/3 of where the price is at. So if it made a 40x from here, that's really a 120x from the bottom. So it's falling pretty steep here, but sometimes these corrections end pretty quickly, and they do turn around. Sometimes this pullback is just a few people taking profits, and then, oh my gosh, I'm missing my window to take profits, and they sell into this. But sometimes some buying pressure then comes around and you don't like. So this is a pretty decent opportunity for those looking to enter in Veracity. I hold a position on it. It's not a very big position, and I'm just holding it at this point. I bought Veracity pretty cheap. All right. So for me, it is a buy at this point. It's a little bit higher than the market cap that I'd like to be at. I like 60 million and below on market caps. There are a few things that have market caps that are higher that I'm buying, like a OMI is a prime example. But Veracity, it tends to get some traction and some momentum and some community behind it. So that's why I like this one. All right, let's take a look now at NTX.
Yeah. So NTX, that again, this is one where big picture, you can see immediately that we're going in sideways ranges with this sort of sixth sense as the central point. But overall, I think it's trying to form a bigger base here with the big breakout level at 11 cents. And I think that's really interesting. Now, it's a shame it got so close to it. And once again, we saw profit taking. It's brought it back down. This is the breakout that we want. This is the breakout I'm looking for. And yeah, there's some failed attempts. It would have been nice given the macro picture if this had gone through, but it's not to be on this occasion. It had broken prior resistance as well at 8 cents, which gave it a really good chance. So we're back in this range, but the highs are getting, the lows are getting higher. So this low here, this low here, this low here, and potentially this low here. So there's still some positivity coming into the market, even though it's still going sideways. Now that's still usually a sign of accumulation. Just might mean we need to be a bit more patient before the breakout. But overall, I still like it. So I would say it's still in the buy camp. Whether it will go a bit lower before it then goes up, I'm not sure. So you could say short term I'd be waiting a bit, but long term I'm positive on it. But if I had a position in it here, I would think, yeah, it's still got potential to base out. I would get more aggressive on it when it breaks this 11 cents because that's the big signal. And rolling into it, so as it was approaching this 11 cents, I mean, it got to 10, and some change, so it nearly did it. Personally, I would be buying into that move and then having to roll out again because that's where I'm trying to break through this barrier, this resistance wall. And sometimes it doesn't happen and you have to kind of, retreat and then go again when it gets closer to it. Now, it might be safer to wait for a breakout, which is another strategy. And that really depends on whoever's, doing the trading. But from a technical point of view, either is possible as long as you're consistent. Say perhaps the safest way is to wait for a breakthrough. But personally, I like to try and get a little ahead of it. But the risk is that it does exactly what it's just done here, and you have to bail out and then re-enter. So overall, I think it's a buy. I just need to wait for another consolidation and attempt to break that 11 cents level.
NewNet is in the AI narrative, and as I said, the AI narrative has been running, but it has done a little pullback, right? So a lot of the AI projects ran up to here. Now, I don't currently own NewNet. I was buying it back here, and I sold it when February of last year things took off, and I sold 100% of it and rolled it into some other things. So I don't own any, and it's mostly traded sideways from there. It did hit some juicy pickup points back here, but it's been running again, and I suspect it's getting ready to break through. Now, I don't know, but it came up and retested these highs and bounced down, but just the way this chart is playing out, I think it might be ready to run some more. We had some major volume come in here. I don't know that the AI narrative is quite over yet. We'll see. So NewNet, it's come back for a decent buy. I mean, the market cap's only at 32 million here. Is it completely in the AI narrative? No, it's just correlated with it because of their association with Singularity DAO. And they tend to run as the AI narrative runs. And so I just think there's some more momentum that might happen there. And at this price, I think it's a good buy. All right, let's take a look at OMI, one of my favorites. And I have been adding to my OMI position. So it's like, not only is it one that I like as a potential buy, it's been one that I've actually been putting more funds into.
Yeah, so here we go. This resistance level, this line, really is building up to be one of the biggest in all the ones that we look at. So 1, 2, 3 attempts to break out. We're getting, if you look at the setup here, this is all forming a base, which is very good news. Frustrating, perhaps, that it's hit this level and come back again. But from a technical point of view, this is actually looking, dare I say it, like a more interesting chart because it's done that. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes you get this symmetry. Now, if we put the 26th of August as the center of this, look at how it made this base here and this base here. So that's one part of the symmetry. Then you've got this area here, which it's just made the first part of that. So this dip is actually mirroring what's gone on here. So what we could see is a move into sort of May where it consolidates again, trades around here, gives you a kind of final bite of the cherry, and then turns up and breaks out through this line. So if it gets anywhere near this area here, I think the market is ready to go, because it would be the final completion of the pattern, and it would be knocking on again, like for the fourth time against this resistance. My question would be, why would it go up there only to fail? That should be the time it breaks out. So where it is now, as it comes into the pullback, it's potentially a buy area for me, and I still like the fact that it's basing. So yeah, for me, it's a buy. Don't know what else to say, really. That's
Yeah, I
um,
personally sure wish a whole bunch more sellers would show up so that they can put, the price down. So I picked up about a total of 34 million now in the past month, which now exceeds the 32 or 33 million I lost from BitForex going down, which I'll probably never see those funds again. So I'm back to levels I was at. I think I'm in that 80 something million range of OMI, which is far, far shy of my goals. It just, one of my principles is I only sell what's up to buy something that's low. I don't sell what's low to buy something that's low, unless I see disastrous news that tell me what I'm holding might fail from here, and it's not just regular FUD. And so it's always lined up that, like, I don't have very much that's available to sell when OMI gets really cheap. And even now I'm selling something that's just only up some in order to move it into OMI, which at this price point I like. So I've been buying more OMI. I hope to get more over the coming months. I just don't know how long it's going to stay cheap. I wish it would stay under the 0.001 price for months and months. And if that happens, then I'm going to accumulate a ton more. I just don't know that it will stay that low. And so we'll see how much OMI I end up with. I like this one. I think it's got potential for 20x, 30x, 50x, even over 100x gains from here. We'll see how the narrative comes together. What I like about OMI is that it's associated with the VV app. And what we saw in 2021 is that it can get some major momentum because as new people come into crypto, they don't often understand like what a layer 2 is or what something is. They like to buy easier narratives, which is why meme coins pump so much. Like, why do these meme coins pump so much? They don't have any fundamentals behind them. Well, that then makes it easy for people that don't know anything about crypto to then understand, because there's nothing to understand. So they come into crypto and they think they're buying crypto when they buy some meme coin, and technically they are, but it isn't really. Like, what's really exciting about cryptographical encryption combined with blockchain is that they will unlock the internet being able to do things it couldn't do before. But brand new people don't understand that. So they just want some exposure to crypto and they buy something that's easy for them to understand. And the easiest things for them to understand is meme coins. But as they get a little bit more sophisticated and they find the VV app and they find that, oh, VV has the first Batman on the blockchain and has these other great intellectual property, things like Marvel, like Spider-Man, and comics, like digital collectible comics. Those are something that they can understand, and then they just buy the token that's associated with it. And that's why it did so well in 2021. And so in some ways, OMI behaved a bit like a meme coin in that the numbers hit incredible gains. And so we'll see if it does that again. I suspect it will, because I think the app is going to go massively viral sometime in the next year. And if that happens, then the token associated with it will probably go massively viral too. A lot of people disagree with me on this. I'm really looking forward to seeing who's right. If people think I'm always right, I'm not. In the last bear market, prior to this one, going into the bull market, I only had about a 35% success rate, which means 65% of what I invested in failed. And still I made 20x from what I put in, or from the bottom of when it bottomed out, it made 100x from there. And I was still figuring out what was crap in crypto and what wasn't. So this time around, I think my success rate is going to be a lot higher than just 35%. But realize that some of the stuff I invest in fails. Sometimes I get things wrong. Just the way I play it and the strategy that I take and the diversification allows me to have massive gains, even when some of the stuff I invest in fails. Will OMI fail from here? Unlikely that it will fail from here, but there's always a chance. So the probability that it failed from here isn't zero. It's higher than zero, but it's one that I like a lot. So I've been adding to my position. All right, let's jump over to SAVG.
Yeah, so SAVG has had a savage move, isn't it? If that's bars to be correct, if that bar is correct there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is known as a gap.
And it's not showing the correct price on there. The price is 1.15 cents. So it did go all the way up there, but it's not far off from there still.
Yeah, let's see if I can get it on Trading View.
That one, yeah. SAVG versus Tether on Gate.io.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. There. That's what we're looking for.
Okay, so that is still a bit of a messy chart. Actually, that actually picks up on the comment that Nathan Solomon's made on the chat here, saying, with regard to OMI, does technical analysis work? Because not many people know about it. The thing with technicals is you are looking at what a broad group of people think, and you don't want to have too much influence by an individual, because individually people aren't predictable, but as a group they kind of are. That's the basis of it. So yeah, there is a certain amount of risk in all of the altcoins when they're too small, that one or two big sellers can influence the price too much. That's absolutely the case. But you can also, with that caveat, kind of work out what they might be doing, whether they're sort of selling or buying, or how they might feel about positions that they've got. So yeah, I do agree you need to approach low volume markets with caution when you're looking at technicals. But there's still information there that could potentially, help the way you would manage a trade. So with regard to SAVG, this is knocking on a good resistance level. This does look like a base, which is good. As I say, I don't like the way it spikes around, because markets have, for me, certain signatures or styles or characteristics that they could repeat in the future. And anything that kind of jumps around like this is suggesting that it's being pushed around by exactly what we've just been saying, small positions, or small individuals with big positions, rather than a group, a broader position, and a kind of group mind. But there is good resistance at this current level here, which is just zoomed in on the chart. Let me just try and zoom out, see if I can find a way to zoom. Why has it done that? That's really annoying. Might have to reload that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to leave the page. So there's good resistance. I have to come out and go back in again. Maybe you could have a look at what you think, and I'll come back to the chart. But I think it's a buy where it is, because it's up against that resistance, and for me, that I like that resistance point to trade against, and with caution as well, because of the volatility. That would, for me, would reduce the position size to be a bit more careful. But I like the way it's trying to break that key resistance point. The only headwind might be the broader market in the short term, but I think in the longer term, there's no reason why it shouldn't break out.
Yeah, so part of the reason this recent pump is that they released this this ad about talking about their partnership with Samsung, and just showing like Samsung Mobile. So a lot of the internet is really going to mobile and running ads on the screens and just high quality video. So SAVG deals in high quality video and creating a marketplace for people that create high K video. This is like 4K and up video, 8K video for to be able to resell. So they want to create a marketplace for that. There's not a very good marketplace for it right now. And blockchain cryptographical encryption creates a good marketplace. So for example, when you walk into the store and you see a bunch of TVs out there and they're showing some video that showcases the quality of their TV. So whether you've walked into a Costco or whatever store in Europe and you see all the displayed TVs that they're trying to show you how good the quality is. Well, they're running often some 8K video there. And when those companies, whether it's Sony or Samsung or whatever company, LG, they buy the video, they want to buy exclusively that video, because the last thing they want is to be showing some cool video. And the company, like if it's LG, if they bought an 8K video, they don't want it then showing on a Samsung right next to theirs. So they want exclusivity on that video. And so creating a marketplace where you can take your 8K video that you shot, put it as an NFT and be able to sell it, but only sell it once, makes sense. Or be able to sell it 10 times, or upfront you can, put the scarcity on it. So I like what SAVG is doing. They've gotten absolutely punished during the bear market, like most everything has. They're still alive and well and working hard. And so if you're in my private community in the Discord, if you're at the gold level, you know that 3 months ago, I put that I was buying a bunch more SAVG. And I was buying a bunch more SAVG down at these levels. So it has since gone about 4x up, and it's still pretty dang cheap. I don't think this market cap is right. Let me look at. It is a very cheap market cap, but I don't think it's that cheap. There we go. CoinGecko is doing a better job. The market cap is 5.5 million, not what it was being shown on CoinGecko at 685,000. Okay, so it's also showing their circulating supply is about 48% in circulation. Cool. I like that. So it's still pretty cheap. If it gets a lot of traction, this could go to a market cap of maybe $1 billion, which would be at close to 200x from here. And that's maybe it goes to that. A lot of these smaller projects, if they don't catch major traction, they at least will go in a bull market to 100 million range, or 200 or 500 million range. So there's plenty of upside on this still. Yes, the announcement just came out, and from here it could continue to run, or it might just simmer and settle down a little bit and come back down until this narrative is more ready to hit. So I don't like this for a really big buy. It's just a nibble buy and hoping it comes down cheaper to get load up while it's cheap again. So I did let the gold member Rainmakers know that I was buying back then. I think I even mentioned in some other places that I was buying. In the comments, one of our comments, Sour D says, great call on SAVG, Rain. Only wish I DCA'd more when you first made us aware of the project. So I think I also had said something, and it might have even been on this show months ago, that I was buying more. SAVG has such low IP, LP, you're going to get those moves. I'm not sure what they mean there. All right, just catching up on some of these. Let's finish off with Animal Concerts, which has come back to a price that's super juicy, and I actually put that on the list to cover.
Yeah, sure. So Animal Concerts, it's always been one that's been of interest, and ever since it started its move up from this sort of support zone, broke into new lows and then reversed out on a nice little technical pattern. But the reason why I'm showing it on such a long-term chart is because this is setting up for an inverse head and shoulders, and that is a very bullish reversal. It means that there's accumulation going on, but it is quite a big pattern, and it means that it may still be in a range for a while longer, potentially coming all the way back at a push to this 30162 area before it goes back up again. Now, I wouldn't expect it to come back that far, because usually this kind of right shoulder area is shorter than the left shoulder if the market is excited and looking for buy zones. So it's not that it's a rule that it's got to come back down there, but it would be symmetrical if it did. So overall, I think this is looking very interesting from a long-term perspective. It may go sideways and underperform for a bit in the short term, but longer term, as it starts to rally, that's going to look really exciting for a major inverse head and shoulders. If I show you where the neckline would be, you draw it across here. It's the discipline would say that you would buy it on a break of this neckline, but as it's rising, that's kind of getting slightly further away. So for me, I would be looking to buy it as it was rounding from here and moving up, which again is a little bit early, but there's still more to run in terms of the macro picture for the whole sector. So there's no reason why it shouldn't enjoy a rally as well. So eventually, I think we're going to be up here somewhere. But it's just, it might come down a bit more before it and consolidates before it starts its journey on the next leg up. But this is, for me, definitely a very interesting chart. I do love the fact that it's making a fairly clear reversal pattern. If it's not completed, there should be signs that it's going to be completed within the next few months, and certainly by the end of this year. I'd hope to see it further up at these levels, and into next year, potentially breaking into new highs up here.
Yeah, I like this one a lot for potential long term, and this isn't going to hit strongly till its narrative really hits. And Animal Concerts is a company trying to provide essentially concerts by top performing artists in the metaverse, and the metaverse narrative hasn't been running. So Animal Concerts, it went up tremendously, and then it's pulled back some, but really the metaverse narrative hasn't been running. I mean, I heard some good news related to the metaverse narrative, and one of the major channels, which, because they have affiliations with some exchanges and use their referral link to get the exchange, they make money as trading happens. So they almost are incentivized to have their people trade more. They were encouraging people to maybe get out of sandbox token to get into things that are interesting. Well, in other words, like, sell what's boring to get into what's hot. And okay, I like to counter trade that, and it does require some patience, but the metaverse narrative, I think, is massively swung too far to the downside, and that it will swing farther to the upside. Animal Concerts is one of those highly volatile ones that, as the metaverse narrative hits, this one could really do well. It's hard to tell exactly where things are at, though, because we're not able to get a good number as to what their real market cap is. I just don't believe this is their real market cap. I think there's far more in circulation than what it's showing here. It's showing 2% in circulation. My guess is that number might even be as much as 30 or 40%. So the market cap would be a couple million, maybe like 1.2 to 2.5 million. I don't know for sure, but it could go up tremendously from here. So we can look at this fully diluted market cap number, which would be 5.16 million, and go off of that. For me at this price, it's a buy again, and maybe it gets even juicier. Cool. But at these numbers, it's starting to be very attractive again. And just waiting till the metaverse narrative hits. It will hit again, and you will see a lot of people FOMOing into metaverse stuff. And at that point, if Animal Concerts does a good job just getting some awareness when that is happening, then it can pump tremendously from here. Places that you can get it right on PancakeSwap. You can also get it using decentralized exchanges on the Binance Smart Chain, or even on Polygon using QuickSwap. You can also get on MEXC, which I think if you're in the US and you use VPN, they don't make you KYC, at least for now. Gate.io is not available to US people, but is available most everywhere else. You can use Uniswap to buy it, but yeah, that's going to absorb a lot in the fees that you're paying. So CoinEx, I haven't used CoinEx for a long time, but I have used it in the past. I think US people can get CoinEx by using a VPN because I don't think they require KYC. All right, so there's a number of places to be able to get it. It's on a number of exchanges, actually, for such a small market cap token. So it is fairly easy to get some. For me, it's a buy. And hopefully it gets cheaper and goes back even cheaper. I would love that because I'll make some more moves into it. All right, so that is those. Let me go back to some of our suggestions. Ferran Pique Torres asked us to look at Wan Chain. It's broken the resistance. So let's dive over to Wan Chain.
Yes. So as far as the major resistance, unless this chart is not up to date, so I'm just double checking. No, this chart is up to date. The major resistance is at 35 cents. It always has been. It has gone through a reasonable resistance point at 30 cents, but this was the major one that it needs to complete the reversal. But what we're seeing again is these rising lows that has started to accelerate, which is great. But the kind of dam breaks through 35 cents for me. So still a buy. We just need that level to go. And slightly disappointing again that it hasn't happened with everything else moving. But as we discussed before, there are certain things that lead, and then market looks around and says what hasn't gone, and then jumps on the ones that it deems to be undervalued. So still potential there and still on the buy list.
Awesome. Now, one of the hard things to do is to buy Wan Chain if you don't already have some, because you almost need some funds on the Wan Chain network to get it. If you're in the US, if you're outside the US, really easy to get. You can get it right on Binance, HTX, KuCoin, HTX. So a lot of the big exchanges have Wan Chain. I was talking to somebody the other day in the US, and he's like, how do I get it? Well, you really just need like one Wan Chain sent over to you from a friend to your MetaMask wallet, or your, decentralized wallet will work fine. So a Trust wallet or a MetaMask wallet, and you can connect it up to the Wan Chain network. And then you just need like one Wan. So you have some money for gas, because the network uses Wan for gas. And then the best way I suggest for you to get it is to go from CoinMarketCap, find Wan Chain, go to wanchain.org. I just click right onto it from CoinGecko. Takes me right here, and then go to bridge. And so then you can connect up using the bridge to make your transfers. So for example, let's see. from the bridge, you can select your asset and you can send some ETH over there or USDT or USDC. You can bridge it over to WAN chain. So you have to select, say, USDT, and you're going to send from ETH over to WAN chain. And then you can use WAN swap or another one of the decentralized exchanges to swap more into WAN. So it's a little bit of pain if you're in the US to get, because you do have to have like one WAN over there. Now, perhaps WAN chain still has, I know in the early days, they had this site that you could go to and you get like a fraction of a, WAN in order to have something in your wallet so that you have some gas in order to operate with. But yeah, I'm a big fan of WAN chain. I just lost, shoot. All right, let me share my screen again. I just lost my shared screen. So like Paul said, we see higher lows and a higher low here. So it's building up some momentum. It has this amazing base and it looks like it's getting ready to take off. Now, I like fundamentals in crypto. I found like one of the reasons I only have a 35% success rate from the bear market of 2018 through 2020 was I was still figuring out what to invest in and what to avoid. And I didn't invest as much in fundamentals back then. Some of what I invested in was pumpamentals, and I was just new. Even though I wasn't new to investing, I'd had 18 years experience investing. I was just new to this crypto space, this wild, wild west. And I was investing in meme coins and other things like that. Otherwise, I probably would have had a much higher success rate. But I was just new, and you're always bad before you're good. And even though I was bad in some ways, my overall strategy that I was taking worked tremendously well, even with only a 35% success rate. And I outperformed most people in crypto with only a 35% success rate because the system that I was using worked very well. But it works better the better you get at sorting for good, fundamentally strong projects, which I believe WAN chain is. They're also a strategic partner of the channel. I believe in them that much. And so when we do our Friday live streams as a strategic partner, we get some WAN to give away during those times. So if you need some WAN going into your MetaMask wallet to be able to buy more WAN, well, join us on this Friday. We will be doing a giveaway for our live stream. The live stream will probably be earlier than normal because I have Randy Chavez coming in town and I need to film some video with him for some special purpose coming up. All right. So I like where the price is at. It's definitely a buy at this. It's not quite its lows, but the lows all the way back here were about half of where we are now. So it's not up much from these lows, and there's still plenty of run left on WAN chain. I also like its market cap, $50 million market cap. They've really been nailing it. Their bridge is absolutely phenomenal to use to send funds across things. They're also doing something that is completely revolutionary, that they're making it so that you can execute a smart contract on, say, Avalanche or some chain that will then go over to Cardano, buy an NFT on the Cardano ecosystem, and it will actually then send that NFT, wrap it over to your Avalanche wallet. Your wallet's on Avalanche. So you can then be able to buy NFTs and other things on Cardano without having to have a Cardano wallet at all. And that is true cross-chain compatibility. That is the kind of technology that's going to make this ecosystem simple enough that grandma can use it, because she's not going to know how to get, say, a MetaMask wallet and then a Cardano wallet and then all these different wallets. In fact, we're all probably tired of having to get so many different wallets. Well, if WAN chain nails this and then continues to expand it, WAN chain is providing the solution that everybody is looking for. And so far, their tech, what they've been doing on cross-chain stuff, is cutting edge. One of the best. I really like the team behind this. What they're doing is amazing. The way that they've set up the safety of it, it's got better safety than most bridges out there and better security than most bridges. I'm really impressed with them. Cool. they're a buy for me, absolutely, at this. Let's jump back over the comments and see. We had that. Any thoughts on Wealth Abundance? Asked us to look at ASM Protocol. It's been trending last week and hasn't pumped yet. I don't know ASM, but we'll take a look at it.
So Assemble Protocol, never heard of it.
Yes.
That doesn't look like it. It's an up-to-date chart. Let's try here. Yeah. So let's see what we got. I want to make sure we've got the up-to-date price. 20th. There we go. So, well, very nice pump. But it's actually, reversed it. So again, this is one of the ones that was kind of going ahead of everything else and then has come back again. Just trying to see what might have triggered that. It's not made this high back here, which is a bit of a concern. It's coming back into a buy area. This is where it really took off. Around here, I would not have wanted to touch it. It would be too risky that it was making new lows. But after a while, you can see how it was forming a base and then slowly started to rally. So I'm thinking where there was the first signal that you got as a really clear buy, and that would have been here at 2.7 cents and then again at 5.9 cents. So those two levels would be important on the way down. Now the first one, it's gone straight through it, which is unusual, but there must have been some news to make it explode to the upside and then downside so quickly. So the next level we've still got to come potentially at 2.7. So I want to see how it plays around there, because it should hold it and then turn around. For me, I think it's a wait, just because it needs to do a bit more work in terms of forming its base, turning, and then reversing back up before I would get interested in it. I don't try to catch them aggressively unless I know about the fundamentals, which I don't, and I think it's some form of bargain. But from a technical point of view, it's coming close to its first breakout point where at least a short-term reaction should be expected. So, I could have a nibble at that level, but other than that, I want to wait and see how it plays over the next couple of weeks and how it responds to either a correction or a move into other altcoins from Bitcoin and from other products. See whether all the altcoins are running, and if they are, what is this one doing specifically in that environment? So it's a wait, but it's a very interesting point, or it's approaching a very interesting point. I think we need to look at this again. So kind of remind us in a few weeks to get an update, so we can see whether that's turned around and we can be a bit more sort of positive on it, having made that low.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I am not familiar with ASM, but some good things about it is it's already on Coinbase. So you're able to get it in the US fairly easy on Coinbase. There's a fair amount of liquidity. By the way, Bro created some clarity for us with this comment. SAVG has such low liquidity pool, you're going to get those moves. In other words, it pumped tremendously, but he is right. The liquidity.
I think what he was saying was because I was saying how the chart was looking really spiky, yes. And it was the characteristic of it, which is absolutely right. It's what you'd expect to see in a low kind of liquidity environment.
Yep. And so Assemble Protocol has much higher liquidity. It's on Coinbase. You can see the 2% depth to the positive and downside is quite high. Interesting. Being on Coinbase already, it's got a fairly high market cap of 50 million, but it pumped tremendously. It must have got some kind of notice, and it's come down 80%, which this is one to keep an eye on. I actually don't know all that much about it. I did go to their website. Assemble your points on the blockchain. Integrate your diversified points into a single asset, which you can manage with ease. Okay, so there's a lot of people kind of fighting for this position, and who's going to make it? I would say the fact that they're on Coinbase gives them a fighting chance to do well in this, because there must be something going on for them well enough for them to have gotten listed on Coinbase. So they have an app store, essentially, yeah, I would say Club Pass, like platform for club ticket sales. Okay, I'm not sure I know what they mean there. Mobile fashion curation and commerce platform. So I can't say I understand 100% what they do, but I do understand that they're on Coinbase already. Okay, Gate.io. Really, this is the big exchange that they're on that most people can have access to be able to buy it. If you're international and for some reason can't get Coinbase, then you can get it on Gate.io. So it's pretty easy to buy. I like the SAVG pullback. That makes it interesting. Otherwise, it wouldn't be very interesting. It's been out for a long time, so looks like a lot of their tokens are already in circulation. Its market cap is close to the fully diluted market cap. This might be a good window for a buy on this. I'm going to rate it as a buy. Even though I can't say I understand very much what it is they do, I like the charts. I'm liking what I'm seeing here. And so I'm just having to make a quick guess. And I think it's a decent buy at this point. All right, let's go back to the comments. What was next? I do want to jump to this comment. How are you feeling about bumper rain? I think they'll get the word out this year. Let's take a look at Bumper's charts.
Yeah. It's looks like it's basing. Is this the up to date? Yeah, it's the up to date. So this is one where we were discussing the trend. It looks slightly different on this for some reason. I think I must have it on my other chart, but I'm not going to go back to it for time. But this was a trend line that we were looking at, and overall talking about how this is kind of the perfect environment really for its use case. Reason being that people will want to protect their gains in a bull market, and look what we've got, a bull market with some volatile corrections, and that's their USP. So as far as the chart goes, yeah, it was a bit disappointing here when it didn't break out. That's still got that overhanging resistance point. Quite a strong correction that came into a trend line, but now it's responded from that and it's trying to break higher. So it's tested its first hurdle around 6.5 cents. When it gets through there, the next level's around 8.4 cents, and then of course the big one is just over 10 cents. So it's got a couple of hurdles to get through before it's in some clear air and it can accelerate in price. Obviously it could do that before, but those are the barriers that I'd be looking at on the way up. But it's still in the buy camp because it's making this base and it's responded nicely and the macro environment supports it.
Yes, I'm a big fan of Bumper. I massively added to my position recently. By massively, I added another $43,000 worth of Bumper. And so I'm a big believer in this. I think this year it'll get some momentum, but really it'll probably get momentum as DeFi gets momentum. And when is that going to happen? I can't say I know. I don't know. So what I do is I buy fundamentally strong things that are in a narrative that I like, and then I just patiently wait. You do see this big basing pattern in that you see the real lows here where it went all the way to 2 cents. It touched down to about 3 cents here, but you're seeing higher lows. It doesn't quite go as low as it did before. So it recently hit 6.5 cents, is dipped down to 5 cents, which I think is a tremendous buy. If Bumper comes together and what they're doing, what I like about Bumper is it has the potential to go to market cap into the billions or tens of billions if it comes together. That's an if. I can't say I know. What I think about, we could call ourselves crypto investors, but really what I do in this space is early stage venture capital investing in the blockchain arena. So it's early stage business investing. In general, VC investing has about a 90% failure rate. And the 10% that succeeds, and that's if you're good, the 10% that succeeds might make you 7x over a 10-year time frame on your overall investment. So 700x on that 10% that's left, which balances out all the failures that you made. Well, in the blockchain space, because we have this 4-year cycle, it's easier to have a better success rate than just 10%, as well as you don't have to wait 10 years for good gains. So realize that these early stage businesses, some of them will fail, but they don't have to ultimately succeed. They just have to survive until its narrative hits. And at a minimum, every 4 years, usually everything in the crypto space goes crazy. And so there's this brief window in time where this type of investing is highly, highly rewarded. You have a much better chance of a higher success rate than normal, but you are still having to use sound investment principles in order to do well in this space. Now, will Bumper ultimately succeed? I sure hope so. I don't have a magic crystal ball to know. I love the team behind it. What they're doing could be transformational and revolutionary. And it's really cheap, and most people aren't paying attention to it at all right now. So it has all these different things that I like. I think this market cap is a steal of a deal. Do note that not even half of their tokens are yet in circulation. Its fully diluted market cap is still really cheap at 12.6 million. So I think it's a tremendous buy. Great suggestion for us to look at. Will it probably happen this year? I hope so. If not, I don't know, when DeFi runs, this should get some traction, but we'll see. Let's look. There was another comment here by Jorge Silva. Always waiting eager for these shows. Congrats. Any thoughts on Abyss World? I don't know Abyss World, but we can check it out.
So Abyss World, what's the code? Did you say? Oh, AWT. Airdrop World we've got here. I don't know if that's the same thing. Let's have a look on here. Abyss World, here we go. Yeah, quite an interesting chart, actually. Only in as much as it's got sort of clear, should be on Trading View. So if we look at it again, we can get a different chart. Yeah, so it's had its bear market. It's now in this range. So it's a wait. You know, headline for me is it's a wait. But I do like the way it's forming this base. I'd have to be strict on a breakout and say that this 0.0063 area is where I would feel more comfortable in buying into it. But the moves tend to be quite smooth. So it looks like it's playing fairly nicely from a technical point of view. Obviously, it's not in a trend as yet, but volume has gone up recently. So that's one indication that something might be going on. The next one would be a breakthrough that resistance. So I think I'd need to wait for that. But if it digs its heels in current levels and then starts to move up here, it would look really interesting because you'd have these rising lows pushing into this resistance, and that would increase the probability of it breaking through. So having a nibble here is not the worst thing for me to be thinking about, but ultimately that this is the level, this resistance point at 62, as you can see on the chart. That's where I would be buying it.
I was trying to get a little bit of research in on this so I could find out some more about it. And it looks like it's in the blockchain gaming space. Interesting. That is a narrative that I really like. For example, let me share this tab. So this is their website, Abyss World. So we're seeing some pretty cool looking graphics. Abyss World is a third-person ARPG game. Players will explore traces of the old tide in the vast Nordian world and uncover the secrets behind it. Unfortunately, we're just doing a quick skim through. Characters look kind of cool. Okay. Now, a lot of these will fail. Looks like probably you can buy some, I don't know, something on OpenSea. When the gaming narrative hits, almost everything that's well established in the gaming narrative goes absolutely crazy. Will Abyss World Technology fall in that? I don't know. The chart suggests good things. You got rising lows. You get little starts where it takes off and then it comes back.
There's not much history, though, I would say. Actually, I should sorry to interject there, but yeah, when there's not a lot of history at all, which again ratchets up the level of caution that you have to have.
Yeah. So it looks like they launched somewhere back here. And often with launches, they get some momentum. People get really excited. It takes off. And then vesting starts happening to their pre-sale investors. They realize, oh, they're still early off in their game. And the price just plummets. Sometimes we can get some additional information. When I'm doing a deep dive, let's see, ICO price. Like one of the things that I look at is I say AWT ICO price, and I want to find out what their launch. No, not Airdrop World. Unfortunately, there's a bunch of things with AWT. What I'm trying to find out is what was their price when they launched. So AWT. I don't know that. On it. Let's see if Abyss. What I try to find out is what was their price when for their IDO and their pre-sale investors. And sometimes we find out that it comes back down to the pre-sale investment and then even below. And that starts to be a juicy price if the project has a decent team and a chance to take off. So I kind of like this price action, but realize that there's a ton of blockchain games. And so you really want to know who the team behind it is, what their experience is. Only 15 or 16% of their tokens are in circulation. So there's a lot more tokens that are going to come into circulation. And so you're really just early stage investing. Now, the failure rate on video games is tremendously high. However, because we're in the blockchain space, the video game that you're investing in might ultimately not succeed. But if you're buying in the bear market or the early bull market, it doesn't have to ultimately succeed. It just needs to succeed still or still be around and alive and working until the FOMO comes in and blockchain gaming is in the narrative and people are going crazy. And then you're smart to be exiting and to take profits. So will Abyss World ultimately succeed? My guess is no. Will they succeed from now into the bull market? My guess is yes. How much kind of returns and gains will they make? That I don't know. Really hard to tell. But probably there's some gains to be made. And it's decently cheap. I don't know. I would just rate it kind of as a wait because I would just need to know more about them. Because there's lots of good buys that I could be making. So if I'm going to be putting funds in this, that's opportunity cost that I could be putting into other things that I know I like. Other things that I think have a strong chance at a 20 or 30 or 50x or 100x or 200x. So for me, it's just a wait. Now, in suggesting it, Jorge Silva might know a lot more fundamentals about it than I do, might know more about the team behind it, what kind of things are going well with the game. And so I just hadn't heard of it before, so I don't know that much fundamentally about it. So I have to go off of 2 minutes of research here, which isn't enough time to really get a feel for a project. Is Bumper listing on OKX soon? I don't know. They do a good job at doing updates frequently on their YouTube channel. And so they might have announced something like that. I have no idea. I haven't heard anything myself that they are. They have talked about centralized exchanges. In fact, I think they're on a really small centralized exchange. They'll probably be coming on more in the future. Yeah, for now, you can get it on Arbitrum, on a DEX on Arbitrum for very cheap. You can also get on Uniswap. As we all know, Uniswap, the fees are exorbitant. Cool. All right. OMI to NFT, bullish for the token or bearish? I think it's bullish for the token. I would love it if it's bearish for the token because I would love for OMI to stay cheap for 3 to 6 more months. And then my real target on how much OMI I'd like to have is 1 billion OMI. In order for me to really put in that kind of money into OMI, I need it to stay at least this cheap or cheaper for 3 or 4 more months. Will that happen? Probably not. Cool. All right. I think whittled our way through all our different suggestions. Perfect. Paul, thank you so much for joining us. Unless you hear differently, everyone, we will not be having this show next week, but we will be having it the following week. My schedule is getting pretty busy this year, and Paul's is often busy as well. So we try to have this every single week. And so far, we've done a phenomenal job with very few pieces on that. I don't know that's going to come together next week, though.
Thanks very much. Thanks for everything. And thanks for your picks. It's always a lot of fun, and look forward to speaking in 2 weeks.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us, Paul.
Thanks, guys.
We were talking about the DeFi, or excuse me, the narrative of AI. And though Paul doesn't really speak about the project DeFi that he works for, they are a strategic partner with the channel, and they do have some amazing AI technology that has created an indicator, one of the best indicators I've ever seen, for volatility coming up. And so they are doing some really cool things with AI. They did hire a very competent firm to help them develop it over a couple-year period. And Paul was actually involved in helping develop the indicator and what needed to be recognized in order for it to do that. If you haven't seen the interview between me and Manu, check that out. I've done a couple with them, and Manu goes into what this indicator is. Now, they haven't gotten press in the AI narrative. A lot of people don't realize that they have better AI out there than most of the crypto AI projects. And so their market cap is a very low number. I have massively added to my DeFi position over the past number of months, massively added to it. All right. So I did want to mention that, but I wanted to mention it only once Paul was gone. Overall, we're still early in this bull run. We're still at just basically stage 2, or the second stage of the bull run, which we actually exceeded previous all-time highs on Bitcoin. That has started to wake up new money from new people coming into crypto. So phase 1 of the bull run was new money coming in from existing people in the crypto space, or people that had kind of been asleep. Phase 2 is when you have new people coming in with new money, and we've seen a little bit of that. We're going to see a lot more of that coming up. So are we at the end of this run? Geez, I would be absolutely shocked if we're anywhere near the end of it. We will see a lot more people coming in, and you will start to have family members call you, ones that had laughed about crypto and what you're doing and told you how dumb you are. One of the indicators that's used is when a number of them are calling you, asking you how to get a Coinbase account, or asking you how to do this and that. That is an indication that the bull run is probably swinging too far to the far side. Things get too expensive as new people massively FOMO in some existing inexperienced people massively FOMO more funds in, rather than taking profits and exiting. And that's usually a sign to me that it's time to be taking profits and sitting on the sidelines, not buying more. That hasn't happened yet. I'm looking forward to that happening. It might be a little ways away. I don't know as far as timing. My best guess on timing is December, that we have a massive blow off top, but it could play out differently than that. You know, there's about a 30% chance it plays out that way. And a 70% chance it either happens a little bit sooner than then, or it pushes into 2025. I can't tell you exactly how it's going to play out. Now, we do have massive institutional funds coming in, which has driven up the Bitcoin price so high so early. How overall that's going to impact this cycle versus the other cycles, I can only guess, but it is going to impact it and play it out differently. We probably are going to have a pretty strong run this cycle with the institutional funds pushing up Bitcoin, but then I wouldn't be surprised if we get an Ethereum and then other blue chip altcoins, ETFs, which will push institutional funds into those. Then a lot of people who have made massive gains in those positions will then roll them into a lot of the smaller cap coins, and we'll have a big run that trickles across almost everything in crypto. And that's what I'm looking forward to. I know that you are too. Thanks everyone for joining us. We will see you all soon. This wrap is just a fun way to remind you of the principles that I share that make, I guess, underpin how I approach crypto and how I look at this system that I often talk about that I use, that even with only a 35% success rate, which is not a great success rate, it's better than most VCs have, but I was just new. This cycle, this bear market going into the bull market, my success rate will be much, much higher. That I can't say I know what it is. It's too early to tell. I have had some failures already, though. Freeway token was a massive failure. I lost probably $75,000. I've had Soul Bank was a failure. They actually produced a pretty good product, but with all the attacks by governments on privacy coins, they like folded up shop, pulled the rug out, and disappeared, probably because they were a little bit worried when the US government or other governments were going after the people that programmed something on Ethereum where you could swap and you couldn't trace it. And so they were actually going after programmers. And so Soul Bank rolled up shop, pulled the carpet out from everyone, and scammed away. Not really scam, but I can understand why they did what they did. Just, I lost $30,000 on that. This space is dangerous, and even I make losses. As much of it as I learned, don't think that nothing that I invest in goes south. In fact, if nothing that I invest in goes south, it means I'm not being risky enough. Thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy the wrap.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, you buy before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Why when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, go parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time the bull will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.